World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.
Senna was a god. No one could even dream to follow him.
I'm from a very humble background.
The role of women at that time were really difficult.
This is so dangerous. You are risking not only your life, but also my life.
World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.
It's the home of British racing. It's a track which every person, you could argue, at some point in time has heard of what this place means to the motoring world. This is a track which is all about high speed. It's all about challenging every aspect of the car. It is all about putting yourself on a different plane, trying to pick up a result here. But at exactly the same time, it's not necessarily a crown jewel. It's not necessarily revered as the greatest endurance track in the world. It's not necessarily a place which has been touted as legendary, but that in itself makes it a legend. This is Silverstone. This is the track which, for all intents and purposes, makes or breaks a driver's career. And here, with R Factor 2, with World Pro Racing, with your Alpine GT4 Championship, my word, are we going to be in for a showcase? I'm Jake Sperry, joined alongside by Alex Goldschmidt as we take ourselves into the fourth round of 5. This has never been more important. Silverstone, normally, Alex, we talk about as a middling round of a championship, as a place where you get that history and that lineage and that legacy which comes in from a circuit which has been in and around since the 1950s, the inaugural Formula One World Championship race. But you look at this place today, there have been a lot of changes, a lot of places on this track where you can now go out there and make moves, and more importantly, a championship battle which sees Alex Trehorn in complete control of its destiny.
Yes, a very different circuit to what we had last week, Jake. Obviously, the streets of Adelaide, where we found that Alessio Spinelli unfortunately was a victim of the walls, not just necessarily the walls, but here at Silverstone it's about momentum carrying, especially through Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel. You then also got to look at consistency. Okay, these Alpine GT4s are not exactly the fastest thing down the straightaways, but if you can nail the corner exit and entrance correctly through the certain parts of the circuit, like say going down into Stowe, Vale, Club, you know, you've then got Abbey, Farm Curve and the Loop of all places. You've still got some very good places as well. I mean, I've had the pleasure of commentating at the circuit myself, and you know, it's a real joy to see people go toe to toe, side by side into Maggots and Beckett's, and I have seen 3 wide in Citroen C1s, and that's an impressive feat in its own right.
It certainly is, of course, when you're driving a car which has been championed by one of the most legendary video game characters out there, being Professor Layton, then it's definitely, you know, we've got some amazing racing available around this place. But as you can see on screen right now, there is the track. 29 degrees out there on track temperature, 22 degrees air temperature, which means it's pretty warm out there for a June day here at Silverstone. Of course, all of the battling around this place is going to be really crucial. And as we said, we are 2 rounds away from the end of the season. Silverstone here right now, Road America coming up forward. We are streaming live here with YouTube, with Facebook Live, and with Twitch, as well as with ESTV, your esports broadcasting network, as or esports television, as I like to think about it. So now you also have motorsport.tv and TVM Sport to go along with that. A wonderful complementary element as we push forward. These are the times that we are looking at here in the practice as things stand. And as we take a little look down at the moment, it is Alex Goncalves who is currently the quickest in practice times. Doesn't mean anything for this moment in time, but we've been keeping an eye out on who's got what ballasts at this stage. 5 drivers so far this season have found themselves on the podium at any given point in time. So from top to bottom, Alex Trehorn has 21 extra kilograms. Then it's 15 kilograms for Spinelli, 12 kilograms for Pedro Crulas Gomez, and then for Casey Lagarde and Alex Goncalves, they only have 3 kilograms added on in terms of ballast. So what does that tell you here potentially as Goncalves will take that dive back over to the pits? It tells you that the form book can very much change, and this is what ballast does to a championship.
Very much the case, especially with success ballast being put on to the drivers if they end up in the top 3. So this could really, really change things around for round 4 of the championship. I mean, but even though, saying that, Spinelli at the moment, Jake, is just under 3.5 tenths off of Goncalves. And you look at where Trehorn is, still in P5 as Andy Birch goes up into P2, just 82 thousandths slower in this 15-minute free practice session. I think the ballast, if they've got the car set up right, they might be able to use the ballast to their advantage and still get a very good score going into the final round in a week's time.
And let's just talk about that championship standing as things go. It's 35 points, the difference then between Trehorn and Spinelli. Of course, Spinelli only managed to score 2 points over at Adelaide last time out. So that's why we see that big gain in terms of the championship out there at the moment. Goncalves only 3 points back now of Spinelli in third position, with Andy Birch back on 70 points in fourth, and Pedro Crulash Gomez in fifth position in the championship, 69 points to his tally as things stand. So this is going to be a difficult battle to get through. Of course, we know it's 45 points for a race victory in this championship, which means if Trehorn can outscore all of its opponents today by a score of at least 10 points against Spinelli, and then subsequently a little bit less each time we go through, and 7 by Goncalves, and he doesn't lose anything to the likes of Birch, for example, or Crulash Gomez, then we could have a championship wrapped up at this very point. Doesn't seem that likely, given that you look at where Alex Trehorn is at the moment in practice. He's down in 5th position, but you never know when it comes to this series. Anything is possible, and it has happened before. We've seen championships wrapped up well in advance here with World Pro Racing in the past.
Yes, case in point, the USF 2000 Series Championship that myself and Chris Buxton commentated on. We had, I think, just trying to remember the name of the driver. I'm going to have a look now. But literally, the championship was wrapped up with a round to go. And, you know, there is every possibility that that could actually happen here. But motorsport has unpredictability in, Jake. And there's no telling what's going to happen here as Trehorn goes quickest.
Well, I guess he's been listening then at this point in time. So Alex Trehorn decides he wants to go and make progress, as we see Goncalves with a big slide coming out of turn number 4 through the arena section. That will be a decision to go to the pits. Andy Birch, I'd say, has been the missed consistency as Spinelli puts his own half a second in the Blue Bolt Racing Alpine up to the very, very top of the practice times. But Andy Birch, let's talk about him for a moment, has been the Mr. Consistency of this season, has been quietly picking up points here and picking up points there, and that's why he's 4th in the championship. Hasn't once finished on the podium, so hasn't got any ballast to his name, but he's just quietly picking up result upon result.
That could possibly help him, you know, if we have dramas with the likes of Trehorn, Spinelli and Goncalves, this opens the door for Andy Birch. And if he could pick up a win here, you know, we saw at Adelaide, we saw Casey Lagarde, who'd had a dismal first round, and then came back fighting. 17 points at Portimao, and then finished in 3rd in Adelaide. He's got everything to prove here as well, and he's rounding out the top 7 at the moment. And you were very, very right with your statement earlier on that the times here in practice aren't going to be a real indicator until we go into qualification, and then it's about that all-important 30-minute race where consistency is going to be key, and not making any mistakes on your way to getting to the checkered flag.
Yes, and we have seen time and again how mistakes hurt, and especially when you go from being up top and potentially 45 odd points in the back pocket going down to just 2, that is championship changing points that you can definitely see. And this is a track which does have itself an element of not wanting to be very easy with drivers here and easy with drivers there. This is a track which is built on the site of an old airfield. It's one of the few tracks you see out there in the world that doesn't have very much elevation change to make a difference when you go around. And that often gives that element of a circuit, really, Alex, which screams, hey, look, I'm easy. But this track is not easy, not by any stretch of the imagination. And this track, through every single corner, must be respected.
Yes, another circuit based on an old airfield, actually not too far from this particular circuit, Snetterton 300 in Norfolk, also based on an old airfield, and that is a track that has to be respected as well. And they do say that appearances can be deceptive, and here at Silverstone, it is one of the most deceptive circuits. I mean, they might be just thinking, yeah, I'm just going to go... I'm going to go down the hanger straight and just literally, nicely coax it into stone. No, you're literally going to grab the car by the scruff of the neck, kicking and screaming with those tyres sidewalls being tortured to within an inch of their fabric. And you can see how hard, even though Andy Birch is not setting a good lap in his practice session on this particular occasion, you can just see how hard they're wrestling with these mid-engined rear-wheel drive cars. It's not easy around here at Silverstone by any stretch of the imagination.
You can see it as making that progress onto the newly christened Hamilton Straight. Birch does set the fastest final sector of anybody and goes up to third, with that time jumping over Goncalves with that one. Silver Piermetz then in fifth position right now. Had his best first sector, didn't quite gather it up together in the middle here in practice. And of course, they're grabbing a whole heap of curb heading in through Club Corner. And that's how easily a lap can fall away around this place, because you do have those big anti-cut curbs out there over the courses of the laps to try and deter drivers in machines which are far quicker than you would say in a GT4 to go out there and cut the track. In a machine like this, it's very easy to unsettle a curb which is so high and so, I would say, alert there for you to keep your eyes out on. It's very much a case of when you look into a corner, you're not actually looking at the apex, you're looking at the thing you don't want to hit, which is those anti-cut curbs.
Yeah, and you're also trying to gather momentum and pace going into the next, maybe not just the next corner along. You're probably looking at maybe 2 to 3 corners ahead, so you're trying to strategize. As I've just seen that Alessio Spinelli's just gone purple in both first 2 sectors. So he's already up on his time, so we could see that the Blue Bolt Racing 67 could end up in the 2-minute 9s, and that'd be a hell of an achievement considering the fact that Alex Trahorn is over half a second behind, and Trahorn has got the most ballast out of anybody here tonight.
Well, you have to remember when Trahorn had less ballast over at the circuit, which was Adelaide Street, as a 2:09.5 comes down on the books. He's a second quicker than anybody else. We remember that Spinelli was 9/10 quicker than anybody else when it came to his effort in practice. So this is again Alessio Spinelli proving that over one lap, over a flying lap, there is no chance that he is going to be matched here today. He is that sort of driver who can go out there and put a lap time and a cadence down, which no driver in this field can match. The difficulty is that with the mistake that happened, of course, a little bit earlier on in the season last week, as we get a 16th driver, Silva Vieira, is going to be joining us in then for the racing. But the key is that if you've let yourself the door open, 34 points is going to be huge to get back. You know, Alex Trahorn can finish second to Spinelli at every round from now to the end of this season, and he's champion.
Yeah, I think I recognise Luis Silva Vieira. I think he was actually third in the USF 2000 championship. The driver that I was trying to remember the name of was Mugen Sim Racing's David Kalasai. He literally just finished and got enough points on the board. So yeah, I mean, Trahorn's just got to, as you said, get as many points as possible, Jake, and this championship could be his. But it's just dependent on whether he does get that what is it? You know, if he's 45 points clear, no one can touch him, not even Spinelli on his best day, even with even if he takes the victory. Trahorn's got he's one step away, but whether he's going to be on that top step and winning the championship is another matter entirely.
It certainly is, and with a minute to go here in practice, let's just talk about some of the areas where drivers are going to be attacking here today. Of course, that long hanger straight, which was for the longest time an element of the first sector, the ending of the first sector, and the transition to the mid part, the stop-start style section of the circuit. That then is now become the final sector out on track, and that hanger straight probably is the key place to get it done, be it that or the Wellington Straight, which makes that run, of course, from Brooklands to Luffield using what was effectively at the time the national circuit.
Yeah, I mean, also there's going to be people looking to be opportunistic coming out of Woodcote, going into Copse. You know, I've seen people manage to time it to absolute perfection, but you've got to get the slipstream right. And then going into Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel, you know, there's an opportunity for battles to happen 2 abreast. If it's 3 wide and 3 Alpines, that could get a bit nasty.
Certainly could, but of course we do also keep an eye out on these battles. There is Stephen Johnson out there, 11th position at the moment, as the checkered flag does come out then here in session. And it's worth noting as well that it is going to be an important qualifying for these drivers because of the fact that you've got 3 very important straights, the front stretch, and then you've got that run on the Wellington stretch, and then all the way down the Hanger Straight. This is going to be very important to get track position when it comes to qualifying. If you haven't had the chance, though, yet already, ladies and gentlemen, you can like, share, and subscribe for more amazing content brought to you by the team here at World Pro Racing. There is so much action that is going on almost every single day of the week. And if you want to get yourself involved, you can head over to worldproracing.com/event. Keep an eye out for any events that you want to get yourself involved in. It doesn't matter if you're a veteran or a beginner. That could be the place where you can find your next fix of sim racing action. But it's not just that we need to focus on at this stage. Qualifying is coming up. Every single corner needs to be maximized at a track which effectively is a gladiatorial battlefield for everybody now to try and make sure they can cut their teeth in qualifying.
Yeah, it's going to be rather crucial. Precision is the key word in qualification. You've got to nail the braking points at the exact moment you know where that car is going to get into that apex, rotate the vehicle, power out of the corner. Don't put the power down too early because you could actually light up the rear tyres and spin the car around, and that could possibly impede other drivers that might be on hot lap. But yeah, track position is another key factor as they're now out on the circuit.
They certainly are. Alex Goncalves making his way then to the middle sector, the former final sector out on this track, making his way through Luffield, and he'll be passing the old pits there on the inside of the circuit on the right through Woodcote and over towards Copse Corner, the former first corner out on track. And it doesn't matter where you put it, Copse is the style of corner which everyone looks at and says, I want a corner like that somewhere, but they don't quite put the pieces together as they build tracks and put a corner like Copse in. That is a commitment corner as you go through, and you need to have so much alertness to where the car needs to be placed.
Yeah, I mean, especially through Copse Corner, you're going to be pushing the best part of maybe say the best part of over 115 miles an hour, probably in 5th gear, maybe even higher than that, depending on how big your intestinal fortitude is around this circuit, with, you know, just over 3.66 miles. Copse is a fearsome corner, and it doesn't matter what kind of machinery you're in, be it Formula 1, a Citroen C1, or the Alpine A110 GT4 that we've got here for the 5-round championship. You still, I mean, we're just going to have a look. Just keep an eye on what Spinelli does here. Just literally commits, puts the car over to the left-hand side, uses a little bit of that runoff curve, but then just, it's not about the rotation here is very minimal. You're effectively guiding a heat-seeking missile through that corner, and hopefully you hit your target on the inside of the apex.
And if you don't, the back end is very liable to get a bit squirrely. You could struggle massively with understeer through that corner as well if the setup isn't there properly. You can see Spinelli here weaving on that back stretch. Of course, one of the things our Factor 2 is known very well for is just how good its tyre model simulates what the real world of racing does around all of the battles that we see. And so you're seeing Spinelli really trying to work and weave the car around to get those tyres up to temperature as we get to figure out just how important a lap around this Silverstone track is. I'll take you through the first sector and give you just an idea of just how fast this is. Onto the Hamilton Straight, and it's a relatively short run towards Abbey at turn number 1. It's a fast flick right as you go through. There will be lifting and braking through this, but then you go straight through the farm curve. So from the Abbey, you run through the farm and you find yourself back at the village. Turn number 3, this slow, deceptive right. Only 90 degrees of a right-hand corner, but still very difficult as you then have to slow again for the loop. A switchback section, very tough now. Turn 5 is Aintree, and you find yourself, of course, on the Wellington Straight. First place, you can really get a move done.
Yeah, so next up it's going to be the tighter technical section, which is more commonly used as the the final sector for GT racing, and is now Spinelli up a 35.4. Now through the right-hander here at Luffield, having negotiated through the left-hander of Brooklands, now on the power, building the revs, up to 4th gear, coming through the sweeping right here at Woodcote, and now we're going to get a real onboard feeling of just what it's like going through into Copse Corner. Spinelli in full attack mode, turns it in down to 5th, and you could just see that car was not fully cooperative, but he's now going to build the speed again. Now with Maggots, Beckett's and Chappell, it's quite deceptive. You're up to 6th, then down to 5th gear through Maggots, now into Beckett's. You're down the gears again. You're having to brake and turn at the same time. Rotate the car through and then power out of Chappell, and then you make your way down the Hanger Straight.
Yeah, and this Hanger Straight is important. It's your first chance for about half a lap to breathe. He is 4 tenths up at the moment on Silver PMX out there, who has set the fastest time of anybody. Goes through at Stowe, such a committed corner. You have to be alert to it. You know the track's going to fall down on the exit as well, through the Vale and over towards this club complex to finish off the lap. 90 degrees left, then you've got that 90 degrees right, but you're always turning as you put the power down. If you've not got it committed, that's not ideal. Sharp, then, we can see, is in 12th position at the moment. We just cut away from Spinelli as we see that drive to the line. It is going to be nearly 6 tenths of a second clear of Silver PMX on a lap which only had one mistake to its name.
Yeah, that was mainly from what I saw. It was Copse Corner, and he was still, just over 2.5 tenths or 2 tenths off of his lap time in practice. So Spinelli, that ballast is not hindering him at all. And Alex Trahorn, still pretty good effort from him so far with 21 kilos of ballast in P3, 7 tenths off of Spinelli. But this says to me something in particular, Jake, that Spinelli, I think, has got more in that tank, and I think he could prove that later on in the session.
I think he can as well, and I think he's looking at drivers to maybe inch in a little bit closer in terms of times, and if they do get closer, then he's got that opportunity to go out there and make something happen. Good qualifying from the opening lap from João Carapo as well, up there in 5th position. So he's been having a really good start to things then, has Carapo. He's 6th in the championship, ever the most consistent finisher, 64 points so far to his championship effort, and he will be another driver looking to try and jump up, maybe racing against Krulash Gomez and Andy Birch to try and see if they can jump up maybe to 5th or 4th in the championship.
Yeah, I think realistically, some of these drivers are now looking to get towards the top 5 towards the end of the season. We talk about the man that we've effectively monikered Mr. Consistency right on your screens. Andy Birch goes in with a 2-minute 10.414, 6.5 tenths off of Alessio Spinelli. There's Giuseppe Ganazzo. So we've got him back. Doesn't look like we've got Samuel Rasool either. Well, it looks like Samuel Rasool a no-show this evening for Team Mentalism, but Ganazzo has done personal bests in sectors 1 and 2, and this will be the number 4's first lap registered as the Alpine heads its way to the start-finish line. What's the time going to be? 2-minute 15.256, but still time to find.
Also worth noting, there is no Pedro Krulash Gomez either, so that will be a big drop for him in the championship. A 0 on the board will mean that he'll be outside of that top 5 fight. Mark my words about it. Goncalves, though, sets a personal best of his first sector, just a quarter of a second back on Alessio Spinelli. And one of the things with ballast is it does keep the top speeds a little bit down, so you can brake maybe slightly later into a corner potentially, but that ballast as well It's very good for actually keeping a car planted as you go through a corner. You can see Goncalves has a lot less ballast, and you can see him fighting around, dealing with that oversteer a little bit more. Ballast does have that ability to keep a car more settled as it goes through a corner.
Yeah, it does help with the centre of gravity. It somewhat lowers it in comparison. So when you look at it from Spinelli versus Goncalves, I mean, that car, the damper rebound rate is quite a significant amount more on Goncalves' car as opposed to Spinelli. And then you look at the laps, and because of that stability for the ballast, that is why Spinelli is nearly 1.4 seconds quicker. And that was after Spinelli's actually only full qualifying lap at full speed.
Yep, certainly does tell, and that is a 2:11.2, so no improvement for Goncalves. Dives back into the pits. Again, Giuseppe Ignazio then is looking good, has a personal best in the first sector, but I tell you what, it's probably the last place you want to be as he struggles in the middle sector, because you can see behind, he is giving every driver in that train a huge tow down that straight, and with 5 minutes and 50 seconds and now ticking under that, the last place you want to be is giving other drivers around you who you want to be racing against a distinct advantage. And that is why you can see Ignazio for Team Mentalism starting to try and put the power down. I expect him to pull off here at the end of this lap, but I expect those drivers behind to maybe get a little bit of help on this lap.
Yeah. And that could very well be the case. Giuseppe, Ruiz Silva Vieira goes up into 9th ahead of Jon Dix in the number 14. Got a yellow out in Sector 1. I did say it. Oh, crikey. Look at that there, Jake. Alessio Spinelli is nearly half a second up on his previous.
Well, 209.7's his best, and this is looking like 209.3's, maybe 209.2's. You can see those brake discs glowing as he jammed on the brakes in towards the club corner, and now making that drive off. They don't go to the Formula One finish line, they go all the way to the start line. Did lose a little bit on that final sector, but still a 209.354. It puts him nearly a whole second clear of anybody else out there in qualifying. PMX, of course, in second, Birch in third, but it is worth keeping in mind these drivers will be changing from qualifying set to race set. They are two very different things out here in terms of how they try and grab the time, deal with the cambers, and many different elements of how you really try and maximize the use of a tyre.
I think also one of the biggest things that we've seen this season is that Alessio Spinelli has bogged down on the start. So his qualifying pace is absolutely mind-blowing. But we saw it at the first race at Kyalami. We even saw it at Portimao, bogged down on the start. And that can cost you time. And then that's why Alex Trahorn has been able to capitalise. You know, Trahorn was third in the first race at Kyalami, and he's taken 2 victories, one at Portimao, one at Adelaide. So now Spinelli needs to get the whole package together. It's all well and good qualifying like nearly 9.5 tenths of a second ahead of Silva Pyramids in the number 27. But he's got to nail it. He's got to warm up the tyres and the brakes correctly, go into turn 1 with a good run of momentum, having got it off the start line. That's where you've got to make all the difference. And that's where Spinelli's game just needs to be upped that little bit more. And maybe that could help him get the jump on the likes of Pyramids, Birch and Trahorn this evening.
Qualifying won't win you races. It will give you the best possible chance to win races, but outright being the fastest over one lap is not what a race is all about. If it was, we'd go do time trials and pursuits, for example. But at least at this moment, Spinelli knows that he has got that pole position under lock and key as I believe Francisco Valle Gonzalez there moves up into 7th position. The Valle Gonzalez brothers have been in and around here with World Pro Racing for a number of months now. At this stage, we focus on Christian Sharp, who is green in both his sectors, 2 seconds down at the moment. Would say he's trying to angle for 8th. I'd say he's trying to angle somewhere in and around moving past the likes of Johnson and Dix in 11th and 10th respectively. There's the drive towards the line. We'll see what sort of time it is, and crossing it's a 2:11.9. That does split up Dix and Johnson there, Sharp in the middle.
Yeah, and there is Alex Goncalves, third in the standings on 78 points just, 3 behind Alessio Spinelli. So, yeah, I mean, it looks like Goncalves is currently up at the moment. So having set personal bests, and with the way things are looking at the moment, about just over a second down off of Spinelli in terms of cumulative between the first two sectors. This could might put Goncalves, if he can get a little bit quicker, as we've got yellow out in sector 1. Well, there's João Carapau goes up into P5, so drops Goncalves down to 6th. Let's see if the run out of the final corner for the number 2 is good enough. So this could be hopefully a deciding factor to get Goncalves up the order, and well, does exactly the right thing and gets past Carapau for 5th place and gets to within 2/10 off of Alex Trehorn.
Trehorn knows he's got work to do. He needs to find 2/10 of a second. Currently, you've got Piermetz and Birch in the pit. Spinelli is out there on track. So anybody who is greyed in right now on the timing tower on the left-hand side of your screen, they are in the pits. They will not be able to get out and around here on circuit to set one more flying lap around this place. That includes Goncalves and Vaya Gonzalez as well. So it'll be down to Trehorn only to try and see if there's any time. But Rui Silva as well will be hoping that there is going to be a chance to close down some times. Knows that the times around him aren't going to improve. Has to be a little bit concerned behind. Dix is still out there on track, of course. But with 40 seconds to go right now, Alex, his focus is going to be crystal and clear. Try and move up past Lagarde and up then into 8th place.
Yeah, I completely agree there, Jake. He's just got to make it nice and clean around the next few parts of the circuit. But cumulatively, over the first 2 sectors, he is now, that is the best part of what, nearly 2.3 seconds off of Spinelli. At the moment, Silva Vieira, he is looking dangerously close to not improving on this lap. He's currently 9th at the moment, just a fraction ahead of Jon Dix, who, as you mentioned earlier, is out on track. Yellow's out in sector 1, checkered out for the session. I've got a very distinct hunch here, Jake, that Rui Silva Vieira will not improve, and as he crosses the line, 2 minute 12.115, and his best lap time this session, 2 minute 11.738.
Very, very telling. Dix, though, on improvements. A second and a half down on Spinelli overall, but this is looking pretty good. Has to take a double take, though, going into the corner there at the Vale, at Club Corner even. That first left into the right, and now you can see how he gets that ability to put the power down. The charge going towards the line. It's an 11-1, which is good enough to move up to 7th place. That's the lap he was looking for, but now we turn to Alex Trehorn here, who is green in his first sector, his best first sector of his racing so far. He's looking for 2/10 against Piermetz. He's looking for a 10th over Birch, who is in 3rd right now. He makes that charge through the right of the Chapel corner, and now he takes that kick left onto the Hangar Straight, uses all of the road, and he is up in that second sector as well, but he is 9/10 down overall, if not an entire second at this point. So he is behind Piermetz, but he needs a good final sector, and I have a feeling that Alex Trehorn has been unlocking this final sector time and time again for Team Racing Dad. He hits the brakes, going into the left. Look how composed he is as he tries to unlock that final bit of tenths and hundredths and thousandths as he goes towards the line here through that final corner, and that long charge towards the line in comparison. He crosses it with a 2:10.4 and unfortunately was not able to find that shade of improvement as he crossed the start-finish line. So for the first time this season, Alex Trehorn does not start in the first 3 positions and will have his work cut out here, Alex, as Spinelli has put himself on pole position by an astronomical margin.
Yeah, just over 9/10 of a second, Jake. I mean, Alex Trehorn in the first sector was actually up by close to a 10th and a half on Andy Birch, but was still a 10th behind Silva Piermetz. And it was the second and third sectors that really showcased how much of a struggle it was for that car, laden with 21 kilos of ballast, to actually thrive around the circuit and try and close on Piermetz. And as soon as Sector 2 came through, it was just a case of, it's about damage limitation. And to still keep it 4th, he's done an admirable job, I must say.
He has, but now it's about the race, and you'd argue that for Trehorn, his focus will be P2 or above here in this one to maintain his championship lead and see how things go. We're going to step aside, though, for one moment here with World Pro Racing. We'll be back with the race coming up with you at Silverstone after this. welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Alpine GT4 Championship, brought to you with World Pro Racing here at Silverstone. I'm Jake Sperry, that is Alex Goldschmidt alongside me for the ride, and now we are getting into that race focus, those 30 minutes that come into play, and we have a feeling that this is going to be an aggressive start to the race. It's such a open and flowing corner through Abbey all the way to the village. If you want a really good run off the line, you've got to take advantage of it so early in this sort of race, Alex. Otherwise, you're going to be maybe a little bit more in trouble later on.
Yeah, you've got to have everything pretty much primed when you're on the start-finish straight in your grid position, ready to go racing. You know, if you overcook it with the revs, you know, you could possibly have some wheel spin getting away from the line. If you manage to get things going correctly, you could get the perfect launch off the line. But then also, if you don't build enough revs, the car might bog down. We've seen that with some of the competitors, most noticeably, as I said earlier, Alessio Spinelli needs to have a textbook start from pole position, because the number 67 will want to go into the first corner first, and if he drops a clanger tonight on that start phase, Silver Piermetz, Andy Birch and Alex Trehorn, maybe even the likes of Goncalves and Carapal, could be with the 67 going into Abbey for the first time. We just don't know. It's now that anticipation, you know, the adrenaline coursing through our veins and in the commentary side of things, and also just looking forward to what's in store, because I love it when we have such unpredictability on who could win this race.
And it's that unpredictability that we see time and again as we are on our formation lap then here with World Pro Racing. Everybody searching then for then a little bit of grip as they go around the track and hope that they have everything that they need. Of course, Spinelli is your pole sitter with Silver Piermetz then in second position. It is going to be Birch in third and Trehorn then in P4 with Goncalves fifth and Carapo in sixth. It'll be Yundix in seventh with first of the two Via Gonzalez's in eighth. Worth noting that one of the Lagards, or the only Lagard that is here today, will be starting from the pits. So that is worth keeping in mind. A pit lane start, then that will probably be carried over from the penalty from last week, why we are seeing Lagarde there in the pit lane with Silva Vieira lining up in 10th. It will be then Sharp in 11th, Johnson in 12th, then it's Ganazzo, the other of the Via Gonzalez is Sharp again, and then Russell making up the field. So two Sharps in the field now instead of two Lagardes, and now final sector, which is where you get all of that focus coming onto the board.
Yeah, the focus now is just nailing that start and just making sure that the tyres, the brakes, everything is at the optimum for the clean getaway. And it doesn't matter what category you're in motorsport, especially standing starts is one of the most crucial skill sets to master. And if you can nail it right, if you know that textbook inside and out like the back of your hand, and you nail it every time, you're guaranteed of a good launch and the car will respond accordingly. Do it wrong, the car will not be your friend, and every one of your enemies or rivals around you will be looking to make that move past quicker than you can say the word jump, as now they start to line up on the grid as the tension builds.
That tension does build, and very quickly those drivers making sure they got themselves into position on the grid. We're getting ready. It will be 30 minutes on the clock, and there are no pit stops required. Effectively, this is GT4 in sprint format. This will be an important run towards turn one. Spinelli knows he's got a bit of a gap to Trehorn, which will be the focus that he will be keeping his eyes on. So let's get ourselves then into position. Let's get ourselves ready for all of those watching around the world. This is what World Pro Racing is all about. Great racing, great action. Lights procedure starts then. It was a long wait because of Lagarde in the pits to make sure it was all there, and we are now underway. So Rui Silva Vieira then immediately picking up a penalty. I think he's jumped the start as he's tried to go on through. It wasn't in his line properly. Spinelli got exactly what he wanted off of the get-go. Piermetz then in second position as they make the charge, as they go through. Little bit of dramas potentially in the back, doesn't look like it, but on the brakes, in towards the arena section then for the first time. No changes of place for the top 4, at least for the moment. And look at this from Piermetz. No ballast versus 21 kilos of it. He's immediately trying to harass Spinelli for that position. Top 4 away already as they hit the Wellington straight.
Yeah. Birch got a lightning start. Piermetz actually started to gather momentum as they went through into Abbey, but now he's challenging on Spinelli. You've got Alex Trahorn in the mix there as well. This is going to get rather dicey going into Brooklands and now into the tight right-hander here at Luffield. And Birch nearly opened the door for Trahorn to get through. So the leader carrying 15 kilos of ballast. The next 2 drivers, that's Piermetz and Birch, no ballast whatsoever, but Alex Trahorn with 21 kilos, and he got a pretty good launch as well. And you can see the gap that they're already starting to build over João Carapau in 5th place. Jon Dix ahead of Alex Goncalves. So the Rhineland Birch Racing Alpine, the number 14, as they head their way through into Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel, has got the jump on the number 2.
Certainly has. That's good progress then, as Alex Goncalves then will be looking a little bit behind as well, because there is Valle Gonzalez vying for position just behind. So that work is still going to have to be needed then on this charge. They hit the hanger straight for the first time. There is Stephen Johnson in 11th position as he looks to try and look behind, because he's got one of the sharps just there, as there is Piermetz in second, not a million miles away from Spinelli, but he's been so good in the middle and final sectors, has Alessio, which means that really you get the difference. Trahorn around the outside of Birch then into Club Corner, has the inside for the next 2, but he hasn't got much of a run there as he's gone on through, but Birch has just pushed it a little bit too wide, and as such, Trahorn gets a place. He moves up into 3rd position. Trev Sharp now through and getting his move done, and he'll be looking behind at the other Sharp there who's trying to get through on Johnson as well. So looks like the battling really heating up. 1 lap already scored in the books, and we're expecting 14 to 15 laps, and I tell you what, Birch isn't giving this one up. He does run off the road though, so there'll be a bit of a question as to whether that was a fair pass or not, and there's a big wiggle and contact behind.
Yeah, Trahorn, Carapau, Jon Dix now into the mix as well. So this, you can now see that Spinelli has rocketed away like a scalded cat on a hot tin roof, and he's taking Silver Piermetz, and it's nearly 3 abreast between the likes of Trahorn, Birch and Carapau as they're all going through, as there's Jon Dix that nearly exits stage right going into Brooklands, and it's all kicking off right behind. You've got the number 79 of Francisco Valle Gonzalez, you've got Ruiz Silva Vallera, and with them is Giuseppe Gnazzo, as we've got a yellow in Sector 2 that's just been retracted, but Gnazzo now up into 9th, having started 13th. The number 4 is trying to move up the order. As you can see here, it's absolutely kicking off. Francisco Valle Gonzalez, coming out of Copse Corner, has got a real good run on Alex Goncalves, and that's going into Maggots. That's brave.
It's brave, but it's worked, because he's got the inside. Struggles, though, with the corner going through Beckett's, but it's all secured as the exit of Chapel comes along. Francisco Valle Gonzalez with a wonderful move. There is Anton just behind. In his battle, it was Russell who was off the road and demoted to the back of the field. So that battle continuing on, as we also see behind there Lagarde trying to get into this race as well. Pick off positions one at a time. Casey in the Matrix Motorsports machine is looking for places. A bit of side-by-side there, as you can see. Gnazzo looking down the inside then and trying to get by Silva Vieira, who of course is trying his best at this moment in time. But it seems like it's a race for the top 2 and everyone else behind's in their own scrap. Look at that. Valle Gonzalez again looking to try and work on the outside, try and get through, but fastest lap of the race, Alessio Spinelli, no shocks there, and there is Christian Sharp out there on track for RDS Motorsport. He's looking behind and has another Valle Gonzalez. Look at Gnazzo and Silva battling it out side by side for position, as Dix now has moved himself up into 5th place.
Yeah, Jon Dix started 7th behind João Carapau, who is now actually behind him, so Carapau in exactly the same position where he qualified, but Spinelli with that high 2-minute 10, as there's a mistake from Anton Valle Gonzalez. That's allowed Casey Lagarde and also the 85 of 85 of Sharp. That's Christian Sharp. To round out the top 12 positions, as there's Giuseppe Ganazzo trying to hold on to the back end. He's wrestling with it as the number 4 in that car as we now ride on board the Team Mentalism Alpine, and you can just see how much, look how frantic. He's a bit like Pato O'Ward. He's got ninja hands. He's working that steering wheel with so much effort, the minimal amount of corrections, but just to keep the car on the straight and narrow.
Yeah, he certainly is. It looks like one of the Sharps has fallen a little bit into trouble as well as dropped back. I believe that is Trev Sharp who's in trouble then at the back of the field. So he's now got a lot of work to do, and well, we're not going to be able to bring you a replay of that, ladies and gentlemen, but they can see Trev Sharp right in the back of shot as he goes on through. Casey Lagarde struggling a little bit through the corner. That's going to allow the other Sharp through, and that is a retirement then for Trev Sharp, who pulls it off to the side of the road and says that is effectively going to be day done for me. They make that charge through. Gnazzo and Vi Gonzalez fighting. Dix as well in defence. You can see that side by side in the back of shot as we go on through towards Club Corner. So it looks like Jörn Dix is still holding on to his place, but Gnazzo on the inside has got it sorted then against Via Gonzalez, and suddenly they've allowed Silva back into the mix. A little peek to the inside. You've got that Valentino Rossi vibe. They all fan out wide, and that's going to be awkward on the exit here. They're both going to go skating off into the grass. Via Gonzalez and also Rui Silva, and that just then was a lucky battle that we've gone through, and it looks like the 21 machine then we've seen one of the 85 cars, either Johnson or Sharp, is getting a 10-second post-race penalty. I don't know who it is. They both have the 85 number on, so we'll need to work out who it is going to be who's getting that extra penalty come the end, and it'll be Sharp, but we're getting 10 extra seconds added on from what is 13th position right now.
Yeah, Christian Sharp and obviously Trev Sharp DNFing from the race, but what amounts of battles here at Silverstone with just under 22.5 minutes to go. Joao Carapau battling away with Alex Goncalves. Goncalves trying to plant the car towards the outside to try and get the switchback counter-offensive, but going through somewhere as tight as like through Brooklands and through into Lovefields. And look at this gaggle here. It's a 5-way scrap for what is effectively 8th position. And you've got the likes of Silva Vallera. Casey Lagarde has got himself up into top 10. He's going to break into the top 8 if he's not too careful. He's up the inside, and there's contact between the 79 of Francisco Valle Gonzalez and Ruiz Silva Vallera, and that has allowed Steve Johnson to get his way in between the pair of them. But what a resurgence from Casey Lagarde. Now he's putting it around the outside. Oh, he clashes with Gnazzo.
Just like that, it happens, and Gnazzo going for a roller coaster ride. That was a case of maybe Casey leaving that one line of room, but of course you naturally, with the way that Maggots and Beckett go through Beckett, you are always going to just funnel out a little bit wider, and that's why you see where all the troubles come into play. Lagarde has this place, and a little tap to the inside there as Silva tries to fight that position back once again. They'll make that charge down in towards Club Corners, and now you start to see here again some side-by-side battling. Johnson and Vi Gonzalez now on at it, and it is Johnson who's found a way through. Casey Lagarde not that comfortable here, and you can see a bit more biffo coming into play.
Yeah, the elbow is definitely out between the number 85 of Christian Sharp and the 79 of Francisco Valle Gonzalez battling over P11, but Casey Lagarde, yeah, I mean, that contact between him and Gnazzo, it was very much sort of eye of the needle situation, and I think pretty much that we're going to leave that one to our race control team over in Malta, Adrian Figallo and George Muscat, to leave it in their capable hands. As always, it has been a bit of fast and frantic action, but here comes Alex Goncalves looking up the inside of Joao Carapau. That's going through Brooklands, no dice there, but Jörn Dix in the meantime is catching up. Now, is that I'm just wondering who that is in front. That's Andy Birch trying to close in on Alex Trehorn, who's now up into P3.
Yeah, that definitely is. And of course, we know that Trehorn has the big ballast in that machine. Birch will be doing everything to keep going. It's about 3.5 to 4 seconds, the margin in front, as Trehorn takes a big track extend over there at Copse Corner. Spinelli is clear now by 2.5 seconds here over Silver Piermet. As we go back to Stephen Johnson and this battle for 10th, 11th and 12th at this stage, with 9th just in front being Silva Vieira. And now you're starting to see how this is going to come into play. Johnson defending quite strongly here against Valle Gonzalez, and of course Francisco will have his brother Anton to deal with, but it's a case of two brothers and two teammates, and technically two sets of teammates having this fight as well, because you can see Christian Sharp is going to be looking every which way to try and help out his teammate just in front.
Yeah, and in the meantime, as there is a move about to happen, and that is going to be Christian Sharp on well, one of the, that will be Francesco Valle Gonzalez, but doesn't make it through. And that was going into Stowe Corner. You can see Giuseppe Canazzo towards the back as a little bit of touching there between Francisco and Christian going through. And bit of fancy some sausage curb, Mr. Sharp. Well, he definitely took some coming through the first part of club.
Yeah, and into the pits then is Rui Silva Vieira, serving his penalty for the jump start that he had off at the start of this race. So he's now dropping back. Trehorn is looking very much in the mirrors right now at it's not Silver Piermet, sorry, Andy Birch, who is there in 4th position. He'll definitely want to get through. And there was a little bit of changing of positions for a moment between Dix and Carapo, but Carapo now has fallen backwards into 7th position behind Goncalves. So Carapo, the big loser out there on track. You can just see how deep on the brakes Birch has gone in the Rhineland Birch machine, and now he will be trying to get that Alpine back into line with 18 minutes and a bit under now remaining in this race for the 4th round.
Yeah, I think, to be honest with you, if Trehorn gets passed by Birch, Birch will actually look at the more positive side of it, because being in 4th place, you don't get any additional ballast. But then, going into Road America, Alessio Spinelli will have 24 kilos of ballast, because it's currently got 15 at the moment. And could that be the deciding factor that might help Alex Trehorn to the title in a week's time? Well, I think that's our guess is as good as yours, ladies and gentlemen, watching on the relevant streams and channels as well. But yeah, I mean, still this battle here between the two Valle Gonzalez brothers, as Francesco goes a bit wide. That nearly opens the door for Christian Sharp, and he gets a bit of a touch. Not just once, but nearly twice there, as they're about to come out. That's coming down onto out of Aintree and onto the Wellington Straight. And there, 3 abreast, Mr. Sperry.
Yep, so some wonderful battling. Francisco working together with Anton, contact there with Sharp as they go through into Stowe Corner. They keep it together nicely. Anton's going to really lose out in terms of that one. A drive-through penalty then for the number 11 of João Carapo after his incident with the number 4 of Giuseppe Gnazzo. So that is going to be for an avoidable incident there. Francisco Valle Gonzalez gets shuffled out, and it's the two brothers side by side as they make that charge out onto the Hamilton Straight as they go through. And it is Francisco now behind brother Anton as they figure things out. Change of positions just happened now for 5th place right now, as that is Goncalves now down the inside. That was done at the village corner there of turn number 3 on track, and Goncalves now up into 5th ahead of Dix.
Yeah, you remember when we saw that incident about I think it was well, they're saying that it's the number 11 of João Carapo, but I'm just wondering about the decision about Casey Lagarde.
Yeah, I think
obviously
it is.
Between Gnazzo, and for me, from that kind of thing, that might be an incident that might be considered as a drive-through for Casey Lagarde, but obviously that is down to the stewards. It's their decision, but still, we've had some great racing in the first 15 minutes. Well, just under 15 minutes. Bring on the next 15 minutes, Jake. Oh my goodness me. And now we've got the brothers Valle Gonzalez going toe-to-toe, and this is coming out of Woodcote and heading into Copse Corner. As it looks like Francisco is ahead of Anton going into Copse, and Francisco a bit more confident behind the wheel getting through that corner, and Anton just nicely following in his wheel tracks.
Yep, apologies ladies and gentlemen, our information was a little bit incorrect to begin with there. But there is Jörn Dix, and there is the incumbent penalty taker who started from pit lane. Casey Lagarde clearly has pace here today. He's been making moves up and down, and well, he'll be looking at the lane pretty soon, and he'll just get that in on server to say that you've got a penalty. You need to come in, Sunshine, then for that incident you had with Giuseppe Gnazzo a little bit earlier on. So he'll be taking that decision straight away to dive down into the pits, and it's a very awkward pit lane here as well because it's a slow pit lane. It's one of the few pit lanes where actually it's shorter in distance to go down the pits than it is to go out there, as we see the Valle Gonzalez brothers once again fighting it out full position. To make it even more confusing, they've got the same number on their car, so they're going to be really tough to deal with. And just like that, there's your proof in the pudding. Casey Lagarde is technically on that lap done the fastest lap of the race. Why? Because he went through the pit lane, where instead of taking the natural line and suddenly just behind Silva Vieira trying to get back through.
Yeah, this is going to be rather interesting because it's the two brothers Valle Gonzalez battling against each other, and here's Ruiz Silva Vieira in the number 27. I'm just going to keep an eye. Yeah, it's really funny though that they both, Anton and Francesco, have both got the number 8 on the side of the cars, and according to the timing screen, they've got the 79. And there is Ruiz Silva Vieira in the number 27. He was trying to thread the eye of the needle there, coming down onto the straightaway, and he's looking towards the outside. I think he's going to mug the pair of them. He's got the inside run. Oh, careful! This could get gnarly, and there goes Ruiz Silva Vieira up the inside. Nicely done.
2 for the price of 1. That is a very, very well thought out move by Rui Silva, and that is how you make an overtake here on this wonderful, wonderful Silverstone circuit. Francisco is not giving this one up. These two will need to work together in some capacity to chase down Christian Sharp there in 10th place. That will be their focus now for the long and the short of the racing that we've got going on at this stage. But now you start to wonder, as these drivers all keep themselves pretty honest around this track, where they are going to be. There you can see Jörn Dix out there looking like he is going to be focused on behind, because there is one Mr. João Carapo trying to go around the outside, trying to unlock that place, and is not going to be able to get it scored complete just yet. They'll fight on the brakes into the next right, and oh, that's not much room at all between those two. And Carapo trying to sneak up and under, but it's the brakes there. It's very much one line suits all out of the final corner. I'm sure Kevin Magnussen could tell everybody about why that final corner is so difficult.
Yes, yeah. Just ask him in passing. Don't ask him straight to his face, because you might get a bit of a Danish scowl at you. But yeah, I mean, Casey Lagarde has been absolutely fine. I mean, the fastest lap has come from him. The only other driver to go into the 210s, the high 210s, Alessio Spinelli, who's now got nearly a 6-second gap over Silva Pirmet. Alex Trahorn doing some really, really good damage limitation, keeping himself in the fight. And interestingly enough, Jake, is that if Spinelli wins and Trahorn places 3rd, get this for an interesting title dynamic as well. Now, that's not what you want, courtesy of João Carapo, and that has let Casey Lagarde through to go up into 6th position. Now, Lagarde actually came out behind these two and has caught them hand over fist.
Yeah, that's some wonderful work then in pace, and I believe what you were saying was that if they stay exactly as they are, they'd be on equal ballast going into the final round of the championship at Road America.
Yeah, and that could really be an interesting battle, and imagine if they qualified on the front row for the finale. We'd have a doozy on our hands right now. But here we've got Goncalves and Birch battling away over P4. Andy Birch, you know, credit where credit is due. He's kept himself at the sharp end of the field, you know, scoring no less than probably, what was it, the best part of, I think the worst round he actually had was Adelaide. And he scored 23 points at Kyalami, 25 at Portimao, and 22 at Adelaide. And he's on course for a pretty solid finish here that will net him 25 points.
Through goes Gnazzo then, picking up a place on Anton Valle Gonzalez, and to get the dad joke out of the way, I thought the sharp end of the field would be P10 and lower, because that's where we see Christian Sharp at this point in time. But there is Gnazzo, who now knows he's got 10 minutes remaining in this race. All of these drivers do at this stage. And Alex Trehorn is slowly starting to reel back in Silver Piamet. The gap is down to 3.3 seconds with 10 minutes to go. So it's not going to be a case you can get it done immediately. As look at this. Birch and Goncalves side by side. Goncalves will have to go around the outside of the loop. Oh, and they've come together. Birch almost beaching himself there on the curb. He gets himself back going again, but he will have that Matador red cape waved in front of him.
Yeah, and the charging bull behind. No jokes there, Casey Lagarde. And the gap was probably about the best part of well over 5 seconds. And now because of that faux pas that just happened for Andy Birch, he's now got Casey Lagarde chasing him down. There's Joao Carapau and Jorn Dix battling over P7. Jorn Dix was able to get himself into the top 5, but he's had a bit of a stagnant race, if I'm completely honest here. I mean, his best lap at 2 minutes 12.4. And I just looked at the lap times previously between him and Casey Lagarde. Casey Lagarde has just gone purple in Sector 1, fastest of anybody this race. He's just done a 2:12.0. He's just put in a 35.6 first sector, and there is Birch up ahead. So now Lagarde, he's got pace he can unlock in that car. And Andy Birch here, Jake, is the cork in the bottle. As soon as Casey Lagarde gets past him, who knows what the number 69 will do?
Well, this really does beg the question whether there was anything to unlock in the race if Lagarde could have started from his grid position of 9th, and Niazzo's around for the second time. This time it's contact with Francisco Valle Gonzalez, who skirts across then the outside of Chapel Corner, gets himself back on circuit, serves his penalty, and allows that to go through. There goes Lagarde now to the outside of the club corners, and just like that, Casey moves up into 5th. And of course, we still know that pending investigation is Birch versus Goncalves, so it could very easily be P4 as well.
Yeah, very much the case. And now Casey Lagarde, at this particular moment in time, between himself and Alex Goncalves, who is about 4 seconds up the road, there is still time. And Casey Lagarde last time did a 2 minute 11.6. If he gets himself into the low 2:11s, have we got Johnson and Sharp? Oh, goodness me! Braking and then some. Locking his front brakes was Christian Sharp. And here comes Ruiz Silva Vieira. That could have been rather nasty between the RDS Motorsport teammates right there. But Ruiz Silva Vieira just basically says to Christian Sharp, I get the point there. Thank you for opening the door.
I'll tell you what, with the way that he was braking to make sure he was stopped, that line, that mark of rubber on the circuit, that's going to be there for a very long time, quote unquote, there as he goes on through. So that is going to be a case of being a little bit over exuberant on the brakes, missing your marker by a little bit, and lucky he didn't, I would say, execute rule 1 of sim racing, which is don't hit your teammate to full effect. But there is Casey Lagarde, 19 seconds off of the race leader at this moment in time, and by far and away the fastest driver out there on track. Another best first sector out there on track for him. He is driving with all of the poise and passion right now, which says that I have nothing to lose now in this championship. I've got nothing to lose in these races. I'm going to go out there and try and show to everybody why I am quick and why I can catch.
Well, the funny thing is that gap between him and Goncalves has now gone down to 3.3 seconds. So Casey Lagarde did a 35.4 on that particular first sector. So Lagarde is absolutely driving like a demon possessed in the number 69, and he's just absolutely skating on the limit of adhesion. That was coming out of that was going down into club. Now he goes across the line. What's his lap time this time going to be? Well, just waiting for the timing to update itself. But you can see that Alex Goncalves isn't that far ahead now. The gap's now 3 seconds. So Lagarde, he's got about 5.25 minutes. There is a possibility that this could happen. And we've just had a penalty being brought through. Now, this would have been for Francisco Valle Gonzalez on Giuseppe Gnazzo. And yeah, Francesco's going to take a drive-through penalty for that incident.
Certainly is. He is fighting, or right now we're actually seeing this fight between Rui Silva and then these two here, the two teammates, Johnson and Sharp, as they go through. So now you can see one position dropped, but you got to figure it out. And this is very much like watching a police escort at this stage, because they have boxed absolutely fantastically in Rui Silva as they go through. Huge mistake, though, from the 85s there, and it's first of all Johnson who makes that mistake, who drops 2 places. He's fighting hard on the inside to get it back. Bit of contact as they go through. On the exit, though, thank you very much, Silva is going to do just enough to gain that back. But that was some wonderful work by the two teammates to make that really difficult for Rui Silva on the Wellington.
Yeah, it always is, and it's never easy getting through, as now they're going through cops. Oh, that's looking a bit wobbly there for Johnson, who actually manages... Oh, he just biffs the right-hand door unceremoniously, coming out of Cop's corner on Rui Silva Vieira, who will be having absolutely nothing of that at all, as they went through some maggots. That was a bit of a cheeky, like, yep, evening, bang.
Absolutely. Evening, Governor. I'm here and I have brought for you a position behind. So now Stephen Johnson doing everything he can to hold on to the final spot in the top 10. On the brakes they go, into the right, and look at that for a lunge. That is a very forceful overtake there by Rui Silva, who decided, I am going through whether you like it or not. Give me room. Johnson trying to fight back, and he wasn't quite able to get that back into position. But at least for the time being, there is not long to go. We are down soon to the final 3 minutes of this race. That will be 2 laps to go, as there is Casey Lagarde, and there is the back of Goncalves.
Yeah, Casey Lagarde in sector 1, over a quarter of a second quicker. He took nearly a half a second, well over, nearly 7/10 actually, out of sector 2, and he was a further couple of tenths. So he's decimated that gap. It's now down to 1.4 seconds. Casey Lagarde could possibly get 4th on the final lap. So realistically, Casey Lagarde, having started from the pit lane, gets a drive-through penalty after contact with Giuseppe Gnazzo, is on the verge of going from pit lane, that was 16th and stone dead last, hopefully to P4, and he's got those fog lights on that Alpine's front bumper blaring at Alex Goncalves. Oh, and he runs a bit wide coming through that corner.
Shows you how much he's pushing right now, the fact that he is running a bit wide and trying to get as much as he can out of this, going through the rights and the lefts of now Beckett's and into Chapel. Now the next right-hander comes along, and he just needs to be alert on the power. It's 2 very contrasting lines. Goncalves quite happy he's got that 1 1/4 second margin at this point in time that Casey Lagarde has to try and close down as much as possible here. With 1.5 minutes remaining, he will know there will only be 1 lap left to run here at Silverstone, and really it has been the Alessio Spinelli show. We've seen none of him so far here today, but 10 seconds clear.
Yeah, that means it's going to be a straight-out fight between Spinelli and Trahorn. And when you look at it, the gap is going to be quite minimal at best. But I think Trahorn's going to be happy going into the final round of the championship. And he knows that as long as he beats Spinelli, the title will be his at Road America.
That is the plan as well. So this is going to be a very important battle as we go through. Lagarde still trying to chase down and get that final place. Yellow flag out in sector 2 right now. So that's not ideal. I don't know if it's for Gnazzo. It looks like it is. So Giuseppe Gnazzo, who has gone around then. So that is a retirement for him. He will pull it off to the pits, and that's a shame. A lap and a bit from the end for him. And that is the second retirement of this race after Trev Sharp. So now on the former front stretch into Cop's Corner, we look at Alessio Spinelli in the Blue Bolt racing car. He has been on his own for the majority of this race. Took him a couple of laps to break away from Silva Piamet, but once he got rid of the Latvian, he was never looking back in terms of this one as he goes through Maggots and Beckett. You can see how close it is behind in the battle for second and third. The gap has been brought back by Alex Trahorn to 2 seconds out there at the moment, but it looks like 2 seconds too late. They can see second, they can see third going through in the back of screen. But at least for this moment, for Alessio Spinelli, he knew he had to respond after what was a consolate performance over at this, or a disconsolate performance, I should say. He knew what he needed to do today. He needed to send a statement message back to Alex Trahorn. He needed to say that he was the best driver in this field, and he is charging soon towards that crown. Welcome Elkhart Lake for next week. Here comes Spinelli with a big, big victory.
Yeah, and Silver Pimettes coming round the final corner, just ahead of Alex Trahorn by the best part of just over a second. But keep your eyes on the battle for fourth and fifth, and there they are, line astern. And could Lagarde have the run on Goncalves? No, denied at the checkered for the number 69. If he'd had another 30 seconds, I think Casey Lagarde would have gotten Goncalves for fourth position, but nevertheless, still 2 top 5 positions for Lagarde, as here's Jon Dix holding on ahead of Sharp and Silva Valletta. Silva Valletta will take 9th because Sharp will get a post-race penalty of 10 seconds for an avoidable incident on the number 21 of Trev Sharp earlier on in the race. Anton Valle Gonzalez rounds out the top 12. There's his brother Francesco, and it will be the number 12 of Darrell Russell that rounds out the field. But, you know, the likes of Birch finishing in 6th, Canapau in 7th. We really had so much to talk about in this race. I think the dust will take a couple of days to settle here, Jake.
I think it will. Up and down the order, there was so much going on, but the big key was driver finishing in number 1, the first position, the 67 of Alessio Spinelli in the Blue Bolt Racing Alpine, who absolutely put dividends to the way that he was looking to go out there and race overall today. You cannot argue with the way that he has conducted himself and the way that he has got that result today, as he puts himself now firmly back in the picture. And it's not just the fact he's in the picture because he's finished first and Trahorn has finished in 3rd position. One of the big keys that we have seen is those bonus points which come in over the course of this championship. You get 5 points for the fastest lap. Well, he's going to lose out on that because Casey Lagarde was stealing it. Well, he gets 2 extra points, of course, for starting the race, and he looks like he could be getting 3 points for consistency, but he'll be definitely here, Alex, getting 3 points for leading the most amount of laps because he led absolutely all of them.
Yeah, very much the case. And Spinelli celebrating as you should do here at Silverstone, and even going through a bit of the kitty litter here at the track, just coming outside of Stowe Corner. But Spinelli absolutely dominant tonight. No one could hold a candle to him, and he just personified that this title fight was going to go down to the wire, and that's what's going to happen at Elkhart Lake.
Certainly is. Of course, Road America is the setting for the final stage of this Shakespearean-style sim racing series, some would say, because it's split up into 5 parts, and each part has had something really, really different about it. As we get ourselves ready then with post-race interviews, Alex Trahorn is here first and foremost, the championship leader, P3 here today. Alex, first and foremost, as we take a little look at that race, you had to really work for that one. Up 1 position, 4th to 3rd, and minimising damage today with how quick Alessio was.
It was super quick. It's definitely fun being a bit further back, and I definitely felt the extra 21 kilos that I had on, but I don't know how Alessio does it. I mean, he's got weight on as well, but yet he's so far ahead at the front. Every single qualifying session, he's the guy to beat. So, yeah, we've all got some work to do, I think.
Well, work to be done, but let's talk about your race, because you had to really harry and harass to find a way past Birch here over this one, Andy Birch. And you know that this championship is important, and overtakes, albeit for third position, still matter. Let's just talk about that overtake and how you had to get it done around the outside to make sure that was one which worked out for you at the second half of the club corner.
Yeah, it was a nice battle with Birch. We both showed each other enough room, and it was, yeah, a good fight. Sorry, it's hard to remember. I think he got back round in the turn 3 and 4, but I don't know if he went off track slightly or something, because he seemed to let me past going back into left field. So yeah, important to get it done early on to try and close the gap to guys ahead, but they're both quick, so that's all I could manage today.
Well, it's a level playing field for you and Alessio for the final round of the championship over at Road America. You will both have the same amount of ballast available in your machines. How are you feeling about a track which is very conducive to overtaking and opportunities to go and make moves? Do you feel like that is a place where you can go and really put a week's worth of work in for it?
I think Road America would be better for me. I knew this would be a weak track because of the behaviour of the car and the way I tried to drive it. So I was expecting, Alessio to be out of reach. But I think Road America is more suited to the way I'm driving, and there's a lot of long straights and a lot of hard braking, so a lot of opportunities, but a very bumpy track.
Definitely a bumpy track, so we'll keep that in mind as the action goes forward. Before we let you go, Mr. Trehorn, shout out sponsors, anyone you'd like to thank after picking up P3 here at Silverstone.
Thanks to everyone watching. Thanks to you guys for doing a great job. It's, entertaining to watch back afterwards. And yeah, the team helps always. We always help each other, so thanks to them as well.
Alex Trehorn then coming across the line with third place in this one. Alex Goldschmidt has found a Silver PMX who finished P2 here today.
Yeah, Silver, good evening. Firstly, congratulations on hitting the runner-up step on the podium. But you made Alessio Spinelli think a little bit earlier on in the race. He got a good start, but then literally you carried that momentum into the first corner. Was your confidence looking to be rather high that you'd qualified on the front row?
Yeah, thanks first of all for the congratulations. And on the start I was looking to put him under pressure a bit. Maybe if he makes a mistake I can take advantage, but yeah, his nerves are rock solid and I couldn't make a dent in it. He's fast all the way and happy to come home in P2.
Yeah, I think obviously one of the things myself and Jake talked about earlier on, leading up to the race itself, about consistency. Silverstone, it's not an easy task to keep that consistency and precision. At the end of the day, you ended up, I think it was the best part of just over 12 seconds behind Alessio at the finish. But still, to finish at that position, having done a really good qualifying, a very solid result, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I would say so. So a lot better than it went last time with the retirement, and of course second race in the championship. Happy to see that I've got pace and can fight at the front.
Now going to Road America in a week's time, a very different circuit, one that is conducive, as Jake has already asked Alex in his interview, that it's going to be conducive to overtaking. How do you fancy your chances? Because now you're going to have ballast on the car. It's only going to be 6 kilos, but with Alex and Alessio with 24 kilos going into the final round, there is an opportunity for maybe to have a chance at that top step before the end of the season.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. Top step would be nice, but I don't know if it's quite doable. We'll see though. Road America, I have some recent experience in when GT3 in the Estonian Championships, so it could be good. And yeah, see what the 6 kilos of ballast does to my pace.
Well, Silver, firstly, thank you very much for joining us here on the post-race interview side of things. Any shout-outs, any sponsors you want to say thank you to?
I'd like to thank the organizers for putting on a nice championship and nice car combos for the second week in a row I've tried now. And yeah, shout out Estonian Sim Racing Association, where I've got most experience in R Factor, and has helped me build up this pace.
Well, Silver, thank you very much, and we'll see you next week for the final round of the championship.
See you soon.
Jake, I think you've got our winner, Mr. Alessio Spinelli.
I certainly have. Alessio, that you would say was a complete race from your standpoint.
Hello, everyone. This race has been what I like to do next time. Last race, sorry, in Adelaide, because I had race pace very good. I'm a good feeling with this car. So also, if I have some kilos of ballast, I see that I can drive quite well. So I expect a good race, like I test during the week.
So a really good bit of work you have done during the week, but let's focus on what happened for you today. You made sure you needed to make a statement on how you needed to get that result after dropping 43 points last time out at Adelaide. Here you bring that gap back down by about half there or thereabouts. Do you feel now that with a level playing field with the ballast, Road America is a track that is going to suit you?
I have to see with all this ballast how can be faster. I don't really know. I have to test it. I hope viewing the difference in this race that I will have something to do, a card to play.
Well, you are certainly showing that you are the driver to beat in terms of pace. Just let's go back through your season ever so quickly. How has this been as a journey for you? 5 straight weeks of action it will be next week. How has this been as a journey for you of getting used to this Alpine, understanding what makes this GT4 tick, and really unlocking that potential that's within the car?
I can say that just from when I drive this car at the beginning, I have a good feeling. So this season was started with some hope to do well in the inter-season. We will see if could be something in the race that get me again fighting for the championship. But without a defeat of Alex similar to the mine, I think I have very little chance to fight for the championship. But however, it has been a very nice and good championship, a good season.
Well, I will remind you it's not over yet, because that was an all-encompassing victory. Anyone you'd like to thank, anyone you'd like to give a shout-out to, Alessio, for a big race victory?
Oh, I have only to thank all my friends that push me to do better and get over my limit.
No worries at all. Alessio Spinelli, a big race victory, and one which does bring that championship back closer together. But the real thing, Alex, Mr. Goldschmidt, as we focus on this run to Elkhart Lake 1 week from now, surely you would say that this is the point where it comes down to 1v1.
Yes, that old question when you've got two rivals going at it hammer and tongs. I mean, Road America, what a way to finish off the season. A fantastic circuit in its own right. And it's really going to provide, I think, probably the biggest spectacle that we will have in this Alpine GT4 Championship. But then when you look at there's certain contributing factors. You look at it from this perspective. Spinelli, Trahorn, they've both had 2 victories this season. Who's going to come out on top? Alex Trahorn knows that he needs to beat Alessio Spinelli to win the championship in a week's time. But the unpredictability of modern day motorsport, especially here in sim racing, is very much prevalent. And I can't wait until the lights go out for one final time, and after 30 minutes of racing, we crown our Alpine GT4 Championship winner.
I absolutely concur and agree. The only places you can catch this action next week at Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin is with us at World Pro Racing, be it on YouTube, Facebook Live, or on Twitch, as well as ESTV, your esports television network out there, and as well as motorsport.tv and TVM Sport on the top of that. That is the place you can catch it. Also, you can head over to worldproracing.com/events if you want to join in on the action and get yourself into some sim racing work with us at World Pro Racing. We've got things for the beginners. We've got things for those who are maybe a little bit more experienced out there in the sim racing world. But on top of that, there will be another championship coming up around this same time slot as well. We don't have everything announced just yet, but that will be in the pipeline, so please check that space for as and when that next event is coming along and available. Of course, the team behind the scenes has been working hard to make sure this has gone smoothly, from Adrian Fagayo and George Muscat, who have been the chief stewards here and race directors over the course of the race that we've had. They are both FIA accredited and, of course, a part of Motorsport in Malta. On top of that, from Justin Mifsud, who has been out there on the cameras, from one Mr. Alex Goldschmidt alongside me, my name's been Jake Sperry. Championship closes. Spinelli puts on a masterclass here today and shows the world that he is very much in it. He may say that this championship is over, but my goodness, there is no over in championships until the final points have been scored. We'll take you to Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. We'll take you to Packer Nation. We'll take you to a place where great sim racing comes into play 1 week from now with all of us here from World Pro Racing. You do not want to miss Trahorn versus Spinelli.
World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.
Senna was a god. No one could even dream to follow him.
I'm from a very humble background.
The role of women at that time were really difficult.
It's just so dangerous. You are risking not only your life, but also my life.
World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.